Welcome back, friends. Today, the world paused to honor a global beacon of peace and compassion. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, as he celebrates his 90th birthday. From the serene hills of Dharamshala to international gatherings, thousands are uniting to mark this milestone with prayers, tributes, and reflections on his timeless teachings of non-violence and unity.
The world is celebrating the 90th birthday of Tibetan spiritual leader, the 14th Dalai Lama. And a celebration event was organized in Himachal Pradesh's Dharamshala. From top politicians to Hollywood celebrities in attendance, the celebratory event was witnessed by the entire world. Hollywood actor and practicing Buddhist Richard Gere also received blessings from the 14th Dalai Lama.
A joyous day to celebrate this extraordinary life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But also the presence of all the extraordinary people here in the spiritual community, secular community, all these wonderful diplomats and representatives from around the world come here to pay their respects to one of the most extraordinary people who have ever walked on this planet.
Addressing the event, Union Minister of Minority Affairs Kiran Rijiju lauded the Tibetan spiritual leader and called him a living bridge between ancient wisdom and modern world.
Your Holiness, you are more than a spiritual leader. You are a living bridge between ancient wisdom and the modern world. For over 7 decades, you have carried the light of Buddha's teachings with humility and clarity, guiding not only followers of Tibetan Buddhism, but people of all faith and backgrounds towards a more compassionate and ethical way of life.
Following by Rijiju's address, Union Minister Lallan Singh highlighted that the multidisciplinary center based on the Nalanda tradition is being built in Bodh Gaya to promote the fusion of Tibetan and Indian ancient wisdom.
आप वर्तमान और भविष्य की पीढ़ियों को विवेक, ज्ञान और अहिंसा के मार्ग पर चलने के लिए प्रेरित करते रहें.
Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, has been living in exile since he fled Chinese rule in Tibet in 1959. He also said that the next Dalai Lama should be found and recognized as per past Buddhist traditions, blocking Beijing's interference in Tibet's religious matters. China, which views the 14th Dalai Lama as a separatist, has repeatedly said that it alone has the authority to approve the next spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism.
All right, welcoming on this broadcast, Mr. Lobsang Sangay, former president of the Central Tibetan Administration, the government in exile of Tibet, and Tibetans also Kanwal Sibbal, former foreign secretary of the government of India. To you first, Mr. Sangay, and an important landmark occasion today, 90th birthday of the Dalai Lama, and comes amidst the announcement that he has made that his successor would be decided by a trust he had set up, and that it would be, or the successor would be, from outside China.
Yes, today is 90th birthday of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and Tibetans and Buddhists around the world, including inside Tibet, are celebrating. I'm here in Toronto, and we're about to celebrate His Holiness' birthday. Wish him long and very healthy life. Yes, and the Chinese government, is trying to come with laws which is corrupt, come with president which is again, never used or was also corrupt, to say that they will choose a successor. But His Holiness is very, very clear. It is for His Holiness the Dalai Lama to decide, because it's his reincarnation. So the idea is that the chelas will ask for the guru to come back. For 14 years, from the Russian republics to Mongolia to Tibet to Himalayan region and all over the world, have appealed in prayer to His Holiness that all the chelas would like the guru to come back, and His Holiness has blessed all the chelas and followers that yes, my reincarnation will come back and the institution of Dalai Lama will continue, and it will be handled by Ganden Podang. This is 600 years old institution. We must know that.
Yeah.
We call it trust because it's registered in India. That's why we call it trust. Otherwise, it's a legitimate institution of Dalai Lama. It's called Ganden Porang, which will handle it. And Chinese government has no role whatsoever because no chela of His Holiness is asking Chinese government to do anything about Dalai Lama. In fact, they're saying, don't touch. You have no right to interfere. So His Holiness has made a great decision, and we are elated that the institution of Dalai Lama is to continue. And we are very grateful. Today, he is celebrated in India, and the union ministers and chief minister of Arunachal and others have participated and made it a grand event.
Yeah, Mr. Sibal, to you now. And the fact that 2 union ministers were present at the ceremony of marking the birthday of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, the fact that 2 chief ministers were also present there, it's a statement of sorts by India, you think?
Yes, definitely. Definitely, especially as the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh and Kiran Rijiju himself from Arunachal Pradesh, they attended the ceremony. And of course, they knew that on his 90th birthday, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, was going to make some announcement with regard to his successor. So, because he had said that earlier. So, the context in which they attended was politically even more sensitive for the Chinese government because this was the occasion on which the Dalai Lama would make that announcement regarding his successor.
Yeah.
So it's clear that, and then as was rightly said earlier on, we had ministers from the union government attending this ceremony, as well as our Prime Minister sending a message on this occasion. All this is, from the Chinese point of view, political, and I'm glad that we have sent that political message. And with regard to the successor, the choosing of the successor, His Holiness had made several statements earlier about the process to be followed, whether it will be the new Dalai Lama would be within outside the borders of China, whether it could be here or there. So that thing has been left open as yet about where the new Dalai Lama reincarnation would be located. One hopes that it will be in Arunachal Pradesh and in India. That will send a strong message. And finally, I'd like to say that the Chinese government, as was rightly said by Mr. Lobsang Sangye, whom I know personally well, that China has no role in it. It is militarily occupying Tibet. It has denied Tibet its cultural and its civilizational rights. And this is part of the Tibetan culture and Tibetan civilization and Tibetan religion.
So, but
why should the communist state actually seek to interfere in the cultural and religious affairs, even if it is they consider this as part of its population?
Yeah, but you think, sir, that the Chinese have succeeded in sort of browbeating the rest of the world community to toe their line? Because apart from India's official participation, we have seen statements or official statements coming in only from the United States and Taiwan.
Well, I am not aware of the background, whether when His Holiness turned 80, whether there were birthday messages from other parts of the globe. Insofar as the 90th birthday is concerned, it has significance in the context of the fact that he was to announce something with regard to his successor. But otherwise, 90th birthday is 90th birthday. So if there was no precedent, then other countries would not necessarily, at the official level, send a message. But I'm sure that there are lots of messages that have come from non-official sources, from religious bodies, from the Tibetan communities, those who believe in Tibetan freedoms and this and that. Some statements may have come from political leaders in their personal capacity. I'm not aware of that, but I'm not surprised that they have not taken this occasion to send personal messages to His Holiness. If they had, it would have been wonderful.
Yeah, Mr. Sangye, are you getting reports of any festivities, celebrations from inside Tibet, or you think China has succeeded in repressing those?
Never. I think Chinese government never succeed in repressing Tibetans to the extent that they will not celebrate His Holiness. But in various monasteries around the world, I'm pretty sure there'll be large gathering of monks and praying for the long life of His Holiness Dalai Lama. And in many lay people from villages to villages go to the mountaintop and, burn incense and prayer for long life for His Holiness Dalai Lama. Obviously, they will not display the portrait of His Holiness because that's banned. Otherwise, they will be celebrating in many forms, and that has always been the case. Now, regarding your question about statements from other countries, in fact, in the European Parliament, there is a resolution tabled and a statement was issued. A Japanese Parliament has done that, and many other parliamentarians, in various countries have issued statements. So, yes, United States have issued a statement, and with 2 union ministers in Dharamshala, it's a clear message of Indian government on the reincarnation and towards His Holiness Dalai Lama. And His Holiness himself says he's a proud son of India because, rice and dal that he had, eaten so far, and the Nalanda tradition has helped him with his wisdom. So to see that India embracing His Holiness is just a natural, evolution of their relationship, which is beautiful.
Right, absolutely. And hope and pray that we do not get into a situation where China imposes its own Dalai Lama and we have to. Thank you so much on that note, Mr. Lobsang Sangay joining us from Canada and Mr. Sibbal joining us from London. Moving on and staying with the festivities of Dalai Lama's 90th birthday in Delhi's Majnu Ka Tila. The Tibetan community is alive with joy, celebrating the 90th birthday and with prayers, cultural performances and heartfelt tributes. Take a look.
It is a big day today as I stand at Delhi's Majnu Ka Tila Tibetan colony, and people here, the Tibetan community, are celebrating the 90th birthday of the 14th Dalai Lama. And behind me is a picture of young Tenzin Gyatso, the name of Dalai Lama, and celebrations are taking place here in full swing, and people have offered their gratitude to Dalai Lama on his birthday. Now, several of these places are being served with chocolates and fruits as well as cakes to all the people who have come in here, and you can see the amount of gathering the people are here as they enjoying their time. In fact, the 14th Dalai Lama marked his 90th birthday, and he gave a message of gratitude and reflection addressing a gathering of dignitaries in McLeodganj. He expressed appreciation for the love and admiration he has received globally over the years. In fact, he went on to say that he has no pride for or arrogance, and he will continue to be serving the sentient beings. It is a very important day for the Tibetan Buddhists as well as the Buddhist community all over the world as well as in India. Several visuals that we can show you, one of the idols of Lord Buddha here as people continue to celebrate the birthday, the 90th birthday of the 14th Dalai Lama.
All right, this is a story that's as intriguing as it is unexpected. Picture this, a cutting-edge British Royal Navy F-35B, a supersonic stealth jet designed to dominate the skies, but now stranded far from home on a tarmac in Kerala. What began as a routine naval exercise in the Arabian Sea has turned into a global spectacle, with a $110 million war machine grounded by a mysterious mechanical failure. For over 3 weeks now, this high-tech marvel has become an unlikely tourism mascot guarded by security forces and drawing curious onlookers, even as a fresh team of 30-odd technicians flew in from the United Kingdom to salvage the aircraft. Take a look.
This British Royal Navy F-35B, nicknamed Fat Amy or Battle Penguin, is a supersonic stealth jet that lands like a helicopter. But in Kerala, it's grounded. Not by choice, but by a mysterious mechanical failure, turning it into an unlikely tourism mascot.
The F-35B fighter jet that was grounded in the Thiruvananthapuram
International Civil Airport on June 14th continues to be in the airport. It has been understood that there is a problem with the hydraulic system of this particular flight, because of which it has been grounded. It had made an emergency landing on June 14th, Saturday night at the Thiruvananthapuram International Airport, and in fact all support was given by the Indian government. However, many days there has been a fiasco that the fighter pilot in fact refused to move away from this flight and refused the Indian authorities' request to move it to a hangar as well.
The F-35B, part of the HMS Prince of Wales Carrier Strike Group, joined a naval exercise with India's INS Dabar in the Arabian Sea. And on June 14th, it made an emergency landing at the Thiruvananthapuram airport due to low fuel and bad weather. 100 nautical miles off Kerala's coast. A hydraulic failure then grounded it. For over 3 weeks, the $110 million jet has remained on the tarmac, guarded by the Central Industrial Security Force. Initial repair attempts by the Royal Navy technicians have failed. Defense experts note that hydraulic issues demand advanced tools and flushing systems. The Royal Navy's delay in repairs have sparked global embarrassment, with British media calling it a PR disaster. After 20 days, a 31-member UK engineering team arrived at the Thiruvananthapuram airport today to assess the jet. Reports say that the jet will be dismantled first and then flown to the UK aboard the C-17 Globemaster.
The Airbus 400 is right now, you can see in this frame, is landing in Thiruvananthapuram airport as we speak. The jumbo aircraft is right now here. It's landing in the airport, and you can see that the moments have come. It is just touching the runway right now. We're going very close. You can see the runway, and it is going to go past the Bay 4 there right now. It has gone there, just crossed past the F-35. We are getting you these live visuals. It has just crossed past. The F-35, which is grounded in the airport.
The pricey royal aircraft, unable to find a way through, has now been towed to a hangar.
Republic is giving you this exclusive visual where you can see the A400 there on one side, and the F-35 fighter jet is being now moved towards the A400. So we can see these visuals. These are the exclusive visuals that we are bringing in for our viewers. You can see that after 21 days of being grounded in Thiruvananthapuram, the F-35 is being moved towards the A400. A team of 31 crew members have already arrived in Thiruvananthapuram at 12:42 today, and an A400, a jumbo jet that landed over here, has landed, and now you can see this exclusive visuals where we are showing the F-35 moving in fact it is moving closer. There are many vehicles which are also becoming a convoy for it. Very carefully, this F-35 is being dragged towards the A400.
The F-35's Kerala saga isn't its only controversy, however. In June, Iran claimed that it had shot down an Israeli F-35, a claim that Israel had denied. As HMS Prince of Wales sails through Australia, the stranded jet's fate remains uncertain. Will it ever reunite with its carrier?
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the upcoming film Udaipur Files, set to release on July 11, has ignited a firestorm of controversy even before hitting theatres. Based on the brutal 2022 murder of Udaipur tailor Kanhaiya Lal, the film's trailer has drawn sharp criticism for allegedly promoting hate from the Jamiyat-e-Ulema-e-Hind, which has taken the fight to the high courts of Delhi, Maharashtra and Gujarat, demanding a ban on the film's release, citing threats to social harmony. Meanwhile, supporters of the film, including of course the family, they have called it a bold documentation of the hate crime, demanding justice for Kanhaiya Lal. The family of the late Kanhaiya Lal, in fact, spoke to Republic Media Network just a while back, Listen to this exclusive conversation.
2022 को उदयपुर में हुए कन्हैयालाल मर्डर केस की। केवल मैं उस केस की आज बात नहीं कर रही हूँ, उस केस पर एक फिल्म बनी है जिसका नाम है उदयपुर फाइल्स। क्या हुआ था, कैसे हुआ था, कैसे इस निर्मम हत्या को अंजाम दिया गया था, ये सच्चाई दुनिया के सामने लाने की जिम्मेदारी उठाई दो लोगों ने। अमित जानी जो कि फिल्म के प्रोड्यूसर हैं और डायरेक्टर हैं फिल्म के भरत एस श्रीनेत। इस वक्त मेरे साथ भरत जी भी हैं, अमित जानी भी हैं, लेकिन साथ ही साथ कन्हैया लाल के बेटे यश साहू भी इस वक्त मेरे साथ हैं, जो उस दर्द से गुजरे हैं जो शायद हम आप सिर्फ महसूस कर सकते हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने देखा है, उसको जिया है और जी भी रहे हैं। आप सभी लोगों से मैं बात करूं, सबसे पहले यश मैं आपके पास आऊंगी और ये जानना चाहूंगी कि 28 जून 2022 को जो कुछ हुआ उदयपुर में आपके पिता के साथ, उस पर फिल्म बन रही है उदयपुर फाइल्स, उस पर कई सवाल खड़े किए जा रहे हैं। पहले ये बताइए कि फिल्म बन रही है, ये पता चला तो कैसा लगा, और जब सवाल खड़े किए जा रहे हैं तो उस पर क्या कहेंगे आप?
देखिए, फिल्म जो बन रही है उदयपुर फाइल्स वो बिल्कुल हमारे कंसर्न से ही बन रही है, और इसमें जो कुछ दिखाया गया वो बिल्कुल सच है और सच्ची घटना पर आधारित है।
क्या आप लोगों को किसी तरह की कोई धमकी या आपके परिवार से कोई बातचीत, कुछ कहा गया आप लोगों को किसी की भी ओर से, किसी मुस्लिम संगठन की ओर से, आसपास के लोगों की ओर से, या किसी की भी तरफ से भी कुछ कहा गया फिल्म को लेकर आप लोगों से? यश
नहीं, मुझे किसी तरह की कोई धमकी नहीं मिली और ना ही हमारे परिवार से कभी कुछ बोला गया इस बारे में। हाँ, आप पर जो डायरेक्टर और जो प्रोड्यूसर है उनके फ़ोन में बहुत सारे ऐसे मैसेज मैंने खुद ने देखे हैं जिसमें अच्छा। उनको धमकी आई हुई है, उनको बहुत सारी बातें लिखी हुई है उसके अंदर।
भरत जी, आपसे जानना चाहूँगी अब क्या धमकियाँ दी गई हैं आप लोगों को, क्या कहा गया है आपसे, खुल के बताइएगा सब कुछ।
जी, पहले तो नमस्कार आपको।
नमस्कार
जी। अब एक्चुअली क्या है कि मैं मैसेज ज़्यादा इंस्टाग्राम के चेक करता नहीं हूँ, तो कुछ रिक्वेस्ट में मेरे मैसेज पड़े थे, तो मैं सबके सामने ही मैंने खोला, तो मैंने स्क्रॉल किया तो मुझे लगता है मतलब बहुत सारे मैसेज जिसमें बहुत ही भद्दी गालियाँ दी गई थी और उसमें लिखा गया है, वो सब मैंने स्क्रीनशॉट लेकर रखा हुआ है कि आप तुम्हारा भी वही अंजाम होगा जो हमने कन्हैयालाल साहू जी का किया था। तो और आग से ना खेलो, ये आग है, लौ की तरह जल जाओगे। और भी मेरी वीडियो जो है लोग बना के मेरी फ़ोटो लगा के और मुझे धमकी दे रहे हैं कि तुमको मार देंगे। तो मुझे डर तो नहीं लगता है, अगर डर लगता तो मैं सिनेमा में आता नहीं और इस तरह की फिल्मों में अपनी दिलचस्पी नहीं दिखाता, क्योंकि मुझे रॉ फिल्में शूट करना पसंद है। क्योंकि ये हकीकत जो है ना दिखाने, इन्हें हकीकत से डर लगता है, ये जो लोग हैं जिन्हें हकीकत से डर लगता है, मैं उसी दृश्य को दिखाना पसंद करता हूँ।
अमित जी, आपको कोई मैसेज आया?
घटनाएं हो रही हैं, मतलब मैसेज आ रहे हैं मुझे।
जी सर। अमित जी, कोई मैसेज आपको?
देखिए, मेरी तो डीप फेक वीडियो भी बनाई जा रही है। हाँ, मेरी तो डीप फेक वीडियो भी बन रही है जिसमें एक कोई आतंकवादी मेरा चेहरा लगाया है और मेरी गर्दन काट रहा है, मुझे कोई शूट कर रहा है, ऐसी वीडियो भी आई है। ISIS नाम की एक आईडी से मुझे धमकी आई है। अच्छा। ये जो सीरिया इराक में बैठे हैं आतंकवादी, और कश्मीर से बहुत धमकी आई हैं, और ये कह रहे हैं कि हम तुम्हारा गला कन्हैयालाल की तरह काट देंगे, तुम्हारा एक और अंजाम होगा, एक फिल्म बनेगी अमित जानी मर्डर स्टोरी। तो इस तरह से मुझे 10,000 से ज्यादा धमकियां मिली हैं। उदयपुर में परसों राजस्थान में 2 लोग धमकी दे रहे थे उदयपुर फाइल के बाईकाट के साथ, उनको राजस्थान की उदयपुर पुलिस ने गिरफ्तार भी किया है। और मैंने करीब 8-10 हजार धमकियों के स्क्रीनशॉट माननीय गृह मंत्री जो भारत सरकार हैं उनके दफ्तर पे जाके, गृह मंत्रालय में जाके दिए हैं, और मैंने भारत सरकार से उन तमाम चीजों को अवगत कराया है कि मुझे धमकी देने वाले जो लोग हैं वो पाकिस्तान से हैं, कश्मीर से हैं, हैदराबाद से हैं, और वो मतलब मेरे फोटो पे लगा के कि सर तन से जुदा कर दो इसका, इसको गला काट दो, इसको मार दो, इसको जिंदा जला दो, डायरेक्टर का गला कटेगा, प्रोड्यूसर का गला कटेगा, ऐसी हजारों धमकियां अब तक कट्टरपंथियों द्वारा दी जा रही है। और मैं उनकी आईडी पे जाके जब देखता हूं उनकी डीपी, तो डीपी पे अल-बगदादी का फोटो है, डीपी पे ISIS लिखा हुआ है, लश्कर तोयबा, हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन, हरकतुल इस्लाम और हमास वगैरह, हिजबुल्लाह, इस तरह के संगठनों के नाम उनकी आईडी पे लिखे हुए हैं, और आतंकवादियों के ही फोटो, अजहर मसूद के फोटो और लादेन के फोटो और इस तरह के फोटो उन पे छपे हुए हैं। तो निश्चित रूप से हम भारत के और दुनिया के जो इस्लामिक आतंकवादी संगठन हैं इस समय उनके निशाने पे आ गए हैं। इसलिए हमने भारत सरकार से और नोएडा की जो पुलिस है और उत्तर प्रदेश की जो पुलिस है उसको तमाम ट्वीट भी किया है, और उनको टैग करके हमने वो चीजें डाली भी हैं कि देखिए लोकतंत्र की जो दुहाई दे रहे हैं, संविधान बचाओ की जो बात कर रहे हैं, वो लोग किस तरह से एक सरतन से जुदा का नारा देके कभी
अमित जी, क्या लगता है आपको कि ये कौन लोग हैं जिनको आपके और भरत जी के साथ मिलकर ये फिल्म बनाने पर आपत्ति हो रही है? क्या लगता है आपको, कौन से लोग हैं वो जिनके पेट में इतना दर्द हो रहा है फिल्म बनने पर?
देखिए मैं बताता हूँ, ये फिल्म की जो मैं इसमें बहुत जिम्मेदारी से कहना चाहता हूँ, इस बात की जानकारी 3 साल से लोगों को है कि कन्हैयालाल जी की हत्याकांड पे फिल्म बन रही है। 3 साल में कोई धमकी नहीं मिली, लेकिन जब ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड और मिल्ली काउंसिल और जमीयत-ए-उलेमा हिंद ने फतवा जारी किया हमारे खिलाफ और मुसलमानों को भड़काया और दुनिया के मुसलमानों तक इस बात को पहुंचाया और झूठ बोला। झूठ क्या है कि अमित जानी ने नबी करीम का अपमान किया है, जबकि मैंने नबी करीम का अपमान नहीं किया। मैंने ऐसा कोई वर्ड उनके खिलाफ उसमें नहीं बोला। नबी का अगर हमारी फिल्म में जिक्र है तो नबी के ऊपर बुढ़िया कूड़ा फेंकती थी और वो उसको माफ कर देते थे, ऐसा जिक्र है। लेकिन ये प्रोपेगेंडा बनाकर, जैसा कि इनकी आदत है, तो इन लोगों ने देश और दुनिया के मुसलमानों को और कट्टरपंथी संगठनों को उकसाया है और किसी भी क्षण ये लोग हम पे बड़ा अटैक करा सकते हैं। मैडम
जी,
ये लोग हमारे घर पे नोएडा में, उत्तर प्रदेश में हम रहते हैं।
अच्छा।
ये किसी भी क्षण हमारे ऊपर, चूंकि अभी मुझे एक धमकी आई थी, नोएडा पुलिस ने मेरा मुकदमा नहीं लिखा, मुझे धमकी आई थी, मैंने तुरंत डायल 112 पे फोन किया।
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
In the India Today Best Universities Survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School Bengaluru.
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध, MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
After the massive success of Operation Sindoor, which underlined India's dominance in the skies, another story is quietly unfolding within the Indian Air Force. This one will multiply the Indian Air Force's punch and add more firepower to one of its most advanced fighter jets, the Sukhoi 30 MKI, and make it more lethal for our adversaries. The Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, the backbone of our Air Force, is getting a radical makeover. And it is not just an upgrade, it is a transformation. Yes, we are talking about the Super Sukhoi, the massive 70,000 crore...
Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week, I pick a subject that's related to Pakistan and yet is intensely domestic. During the news cycle of past week, pictures emerged of a couple found dead in the desert sands of Jaisalmer near Pakistan border. The two got identified as belonging to Ghotki district of Sindh province of Pakistan. Both were Hindus. Both would have illegally jumped the border but lost their way, and the desert heat killed them. A week before that, an equally disquieting story emerged of 5 kids of a Hindu family running away from home and converting to Islam, again in Sindh. What's happening with the Hindus of Sindh is our focus. Second, a quick lowdown on the India-US trade deal or some aspects of it, whether it's happening or not. And finally, a warning shot from China. The dragon is breathing fire on our food security. We will understand how. Let's get going. These pictures are of Ravi Kumar and Shanti Bai, both in their teens, both from the desert district of Ghotki in Sindh province of Pakistan. They were found in this condition, perhaps dead for a few days, in Jaisalmer this week. Police believes they escaped from Pakistan but lost their way in the desert. The heat killed them before they could reach any human habitation or shelter. The story is tragic and incomplete. I tried piecing together from the Pakistani side with some sources as to what would have happened. Most likely narration is that they eloped or escaped but wanted to leave Pakistan at any cost, at the risk of their lives even. They could not make it, perishing in the desert sands with little to connect the dots. In the tragedy of Ravi Kumar and Shanti Bai is a glimpse of the Hindus of Sindh, a microscopic minority in Pakistan that faces daily existential threat from a radical society that cannot tolerate even this small number of Hindus in their midst. Also this week, another Hindu family faced the suffocating ambush of extremism in Sindh.
हमने अपनी रजा और खुशी के साथ इस्लाम कबूल किया है।
मैं बाई बिनते भगवान दास अपनी रजा खुशी से इस्लाम कबूल करती हूँ।
मैं विकास कुमार बिना किसी जबरदस्ती के इस्लाम कबूल करता हूँ।
आज अपनी रजा खुशी और होशो आवाज और बगैर किसी जबरदस्ती के इस्लाम कबूल कर लिया है।
मैं नशीना बाई अपनी रजा खुशी से इस्लाम कबूल किया है।
These 5 youngsters, 3 of them minors, are heard claiming on camera that they converted to Islam on their own free will. While making the declaration, they can be clearly seen to be reading from a script, like their eyes can be followed as they move to read from a piece of paper held in front of them. These are 5 children, Disha, Diya, Jisha, Vikas and Ganesh, of the Bhagwandas family of Shahdatpur in Sindh province of Pakistan, and they were reported missing a fortnight back, only to appear mysteriously with police, but disowning their families, disowning their religion, professing to have converted to Islam on their own free will. Listen to them once again.
मेरा नाम जिया है। मैं, मेरी 2 बहनें, हमने अपनी रजा और खुशी के साथ इस्लाम कबूल किया है और अपनी रजा और खुशी के साथ घर से भागे हैं। इसमें हमारी किसी ने भी किसी भी किस्म की कोई भी मदद नहीं की है। हम अपनी मर्जी से और अपने ही बलबूते पे, अपने ही दम पे निकले हैं घर से।
मैं बाई बिनते भगवान दास अपनी रजा खुशी से इस्लाम कबूल करती हूँ। मुझ पर किसी भी किस्म की जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं है।
मैं विकास कुमार जयप्रकाश अपने पूरे होशो हवास और बिना किसी जबरदस्ती के इस्लाम कबूल करता हूँ और मुझे अपने घर वालों से खतरा है, मुझे तहफ़्फ़ुज़ दिया जाए।
मैं हरीत कुमार उर्फ अब्दुल राफे आज अपनी रजा खुशी और होशो आवाज और बगैर किसी जबरदस्ती के इस्लाम कबूल कर लिया है।
मैं नशीना बाई बिनते भगवान दास अपनी रजा खुशी से इस्लाम कबूल किया है। मुझ पर किसी भी किस्म की जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं है।
Did you get any sense that everything is above board with their conversions, including the attire? Just a short clip of the wailing mother of the kids. And then a press conference addressed by the family members. The Sindh Human Rights Commission has taken Sukhoi to cognizance, but it might end there. An average of 300 forced conversions get reported per annum in Pakistan. And that must be a very conservative number. Anything between 1,200 to 5,000 of the remaining Hindus leave Pakistan every year, most of them coming to India. A survey by the Digital Rights Foundation on Minorities in Pakistan found words like wajib ul qatl, which means worthy of killing, fitna, or cause of discord, and male-ganimat, war booty or sex slave, frequently used for Hindus, Sikhs and Christians in Pakistan. There are organized syndicates called blasphemy business groups run by lawyers. These are criminal gangs luring unsuspecting people, mostly minorities, and then blackmailing them for any innocuous comments they might have made. Either pay up or convert, or else sartan se juda threat. Zohran Mamdani, the likely new mayor of New York, recently got away with a blatant lie that there were no more Gujarati Muslims left. Gujarati Muslims are not only thriving, but happen to be one of the more affluent segments of the Muslim community as a whole in India. Whatever I could scan of Mamadani's public positions, I found none, like not one expressing his mind on the Hindus of Sindh. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan came out with a report recently terming the judicial process as tilted against the Hindus with little chance of justice. Districts like Ghotki, Umarkot and Tharparkar in Sindh were described as Hindu abduction hubs, with most victims being underage girls, abducted, converted and forced into marriages with Muslim men. It's an organized crime with complete state support. The courts joined the extremists by not allowing the abducted girls to return to their families, putting them in detention camps instead. The story of cleric Mian Mittu, whose seminary Dargah Barchundi Sharif in Ghotki is used as a one-stop shop to convert and marry off Hindu girls, has attained international notoriety. Most Hindu girls are not sent to schools for fear of abduction by their families. The story of the Hindus of Sindh was foretold by Pakistan's first law minister, a Bengali Hindu by the name of Jogendranath Mandal. He was also a Dalit and presaged the Jai Bhim, Jai Meem slogans of today's pan-Islamists of Indian politics. Like now, so then, Mandal felt he was cheated, quit as minister and returned to India to redeem himself. His resignation letter to Pakistan's Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan is instructive of how Pakistan would treat its Hindus. I must say that this policy of driving out Hindus from Pakistan has succeeded completely in West Pakistan and is nearing completion in East Pakistan too, he wrote. The future of Hindus in East Bengal is completely dark and dismal. Leaving aside the question of East Pakistan, let me now refer to West Pakistan, especially Sindh. A large number of them were converted to Islam. Only 4 out of a dozen scheduled caste girls abducted by Muslims have yet to be recovered. The names of those girls and the names of their abductors were supplied to the government. The last reply recently given by the office in charge of the recovery of abducted girls said that his function was to recover Hindu girls and not Achut or scheduled caste ones. They were not Hindus. The condition of this small number of Hindus that are still living in Sindh and Karachi, the capital of Pakistan, is simply deplorable. After an anxious and prolonged struggle, I have come to the conclusion that Pakistan is no place for Hindus to live and that their future is darkened by the ominous shadow of conversion or liquidation. Those Hindus who will continue to stay accursed in Pakistan will, I am afraid, in gradual stages and in a planned manner, be either converted to Islam or completely exterminated. I did some extensive reading from Mandal's letter because it is instructive. The conversions are never of free will. Either there is inducement or there is threat to life. They began in 1947 when the Hindu population of present-day Pakistan was about 8%. They continue when the population of the Hindu community has dwindled to just about 2%. It has been a systematic cleansing of the Hindus in Sindh, the ideology epitomized by Asim Munir's April 16 speech.
पाकिस्तान की कहानी अपने बच्चों को जो है आपने जरूर सुनानी है ताकि वो पाकिस्तान की कहानी ना भूलें. Well, our forefathers they thought that we are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different, our customs are different, our traditions are different, our thoughts are different, our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations, we are not one nation.
Attacking and killing Hindus to physically annul their symbols and their person has been Pakistan's single-minded project since its inception. Pahalgam is not the first terror attack targeting Hindus. Almost all the terror attacks in the last 5 decades and more were aimed at Hindu reprisal. From the 1993 Mumbai bombings to the 2008 Mumbai terror attack. and a dozen other terrorism incidents in between. The whole idea behind the ISI project of Indian Mujahideen, for example, was to target Hindus from Ahmedabad to Bengaluru, from Hyderabad to Varanasi. It is an organized hate. It is deep-seated ideological construct. Jinnah getting Pakistan without disturbing the crease of his pants, as he once famously claimed, was just a beginning. The 8% Hindus in 1947 or 2% now never constituted a threat. And yet, Ravi Kumar and Shanti Bai have to escape. Disha, Josha and Dia have to convert to just survive. Mabdani believes his being a minority adds value to New York, even as minority status in Pakistan comes with a death warrant. Moving on for now. This brings me to the elephant in the room, or the dragon in the sky, that increasingly obstructs India's march to progress. Now it is specifically targeting our supper plates. China has put a full squeeze on exports of specialty fertilizers to India over the last couple of months. Shipments bound for India are facing procedural delays. There are signs that the informal squeeze might be India-specific and should be seen as part of the larger economic war that China is capable of waging, leveraging its manufacturing muscle. China is a large supplier of fertilizers, both the urea and the phosphatic types. Like it is supplier of key commodities in most other sectors, including pharma, for the rest of the world. In the present case, the phosphatic fertilizers are second most widely used in India, and a supply crunch directly affects fruits and vegetables this season. Kharif season accounts for half of overall food production of India, and China's move to disturb fertilizer supplies seems intent on disrupting that very cycle. Here are the numbers. India's DAP or phosphatic stock holding is down from 2.8 million tons in June of last year to 1.8 million tons this year. Though still above the offtake for the season, the dwindling of stocks is worrisome. It has already led to a spike in prices, forcing farmers to look for alternatives. India imports anything between 150 to 160 metric tons of these fertilizers in the June to December Kharif cycle, China accounting for a third of those imports. This must act as a wake-up call for both the government and the industry. If there's any regulatory cholesterol impeding quick growth of the fertilizer sector, the government should quickly move to plug the gaps. If the industry has been slack, depending on the easy China route, then it should buckle up and make sure that India becomes independent of this Chinese dependence in soonest possible time. It's been a generation since we depended on foreign support of any kind for our food security. But those days of ship to mouth were scary. China's recent actions are not confined to fertilizers alone. Only last week, we profiled Chinese moves on rare earth minerals, directly affecting global automotive industry supply chains, among others. In this global game of geopolitical disruption using trade, China, for the time being, controls levers that it can use to manipulate bilateral trade relationships. And if it can do this much with India, which has wherewithal to work on alternatives, imagine what China must be doing to nations in Africa, many of which completely depend on them for their economic growth. There's a lesson which we have oft repeated on this platform, that China needs to be tackled collectively. Individually, trade deals with China would be, by default, disadvantageous to rest. The overcapacities once created have sustenance power that can last decades and more. The United States is a classic example of overcapacity of its war machine during the two world wars, sustaining it for almost a century and more as the lead power of the world. But while America's rise was at least rooted in democratic values and dialogue and a network of international institutions, In the case of China, it is my way or highway. Only last week, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal was panned for this remark he made in London. Listen to him.
So if I do an ASEAN agreement with Indonesia and Malaysia and Vietnam and Thailand and Cambodia and Laos, which was done 15 years ago before we came into government, it really is silly because I am giving or opening up my market to my competitors, and many of whom have now become the B team of China. So effectively and indirectly I've opened up my market for goods that find their way from China into India.
While this created a diplomatic furore, the crux of Goyal's argument was that China had successfully created manufacturing proxies in the ASEAN region and was gaming trade agreements it was not party to by leveraging its presence in these geographies. Goyal was proven right this week when the United States signed its first trade agreement in ASEAN with Vietnam. And guess what? The deal provides for only 20% tariff on Vietnamese goods, but slaps a steep 40% duty on third-party shipments, acknowledging the looming Chinese disruption. The world needs to watch out.
I think we're going to have a deal with India, possibly, and that's going to be a different kind of a deal. It's going to be a deal where we're able to go in and compete. Right now, India doesn't accept anybody in. I think India is going to do that, and if they do that, we're going to have a deal for much less tariffs.
That brings me to the third and connected segment. If China is blackmailing on our food security, do we have a way out? It seems we have. The India-United States trade deal, which is in the works, has an aspect which has turned into an ideological war. The issue, which might play out over the second round of trade deal, is of the genetically modified crops. What is genetically modified crop? Any product of tinkering with the DNA of the plant or organism that changes the genome sequence and hence characteristics, like making them more pest resistant or increase their nutrient value, is called genetically modified. One would say, what's the harm? None really if you are a rich surplus economy like the United States. How do you become a rich surplus economy? By using the same modern technology, which for now is an impediment. I personally do not see any harm in transiting to a GM crops ecosystem in a controlled, graded fashion in India. Look at the numbers. In the case of soybeans, against the yield of just 1 ton per hectare in India, it is 4.2 tons per hectare in the United States. Similarly, in the case of maize, against India's low productivity of 3 to 4 metric tons, it is 11 metric tons in the case of United States. So it's a no-brainer. The question is how to handle the transition so that our own farmers can handle this produce without the glut leading to a price crash. The Niti Aayog, government's in-house think tank, came out with a working paper in May toying with the idea of allowing GM imports. The paper was clear: no GM maize or soybean into the Indian food chain, but only a monitored nod for the fuel chain. Due to the focus on ethanol production to meet blending mandates for green biofuel, India's maize imports have seen a 500% jump in recent years. Instead of importing GM maize, why not just import ethanol, GM or no GM? That was the idea. Would have dovetailed fantastically with climate objectives too, and provided a halfway house over US demand for allowing their GM crops into India. Unfortunately, Niti Aayog had to withdraw the paper faced with criticism from the opposition and even pro-government lobbies like the Swadeshi Jagran Manch. What raised hackles was the Niti suggestion that soybean oil also be allowed. Now that's a red flag, since this gives direct entry to GM crops into the food chain in the country. India is the largest importer of edible oils in the world. There's this argument that with a small tweak as this, allowing GM soybean, we would have achieved many objectives: reduced our import bill, balanced trade with the United States, and taken care of one small aspect of food security, dependence on China. India has had only one experiment with genetically modified crops, that of cotton, and the results have been satisfactory, if not super successful. Introduced in 2001, in a span of 8 years, the GM cotton catapulted India into the second largest cotton producer in the world, as also the biggest exporter of cotton. The cotton produce amounted to 15 million bales only in the year 2000. It more than doubled to 32 million bales by 2010. Farmers across Gujarat, Maharashtra and Karnataka reaped dividends and saw a reasonably good increase in their incomes. As it happens, agriculture is not just an economic activity in India, it is intensely cultural and even more intensely political. With 50% of India's population still dependent on agriculture, the vote bank is a sensitive issue. India's opposition to GM crops predates the World Trade Organization and goes back to GATT and earlier. The concerns are because the GM seeds are often patented, giving leverage to big American agri-tech corporations. This is seen as going against small farmers-driven Indian agricultural landscape. Also, GM seeds are non-reusable. Farmers need to buy fresh seeds in every crop cycle, unlike our desi varieties that are self-generating. Also, of late, there are reports of even the GM cotton developing pest resistance. But that does not mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The government needs to make a concerted attempt to move cautiously in the direction of GM crops backed with intense research. A fail-safe product with guardrails would go a long way in boosting India's food security, lifting us out of the orbit of American pressures or Chinese blackmail. That would be a reasonably good spin-off. Thanks for watching.
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IIHM.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
After the massive success of Operation Sindoor, which underlined India's dominance in the skies, another story is quietly unfolding within the Indian Air Force. This one will multiply the Indian Air Force's punch and add more firepower to one of its most advanced fighter jets, the Sukhoi 30 MKI, and make it more lethal for our adversaries. The Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, the backbone of our Air Force, is getting a radical makeover. And it is not just an upgrade, it is a transformation. Yes, we are talking about the Super Sukhoi, the massive 70,000 crore rupee upgrade that will make Sukhoi 30 more dominant than it already is. Let's start with the why. The Su-30 MKI is already India's most numerous and battle-tested fighter. But the F-16s across the border have seen several upgrades, and China is fielding next-gen platforms as well.
The Royal Navy's F-35B stealther fighter towed to a hangar team of British technicians in India to repair the jet. India's largest medical scam busted by the CBI, crores in bribes, top officials and godmen involved. One person dead while 4 others were injured in an explosion at a firecracker factory in Tamil Nadu's Virudanagar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Brazil to attend the BRICS summit. Trump's tariffs likely to be top focus. Elon Musk announces new political party, names it America Party, says objective to give people back their freedom.
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IAHM.
MDH की देगी मिर्च,
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
After the massive success of Operation Sindoor, which underlined India's dominance in the skies, another story is quietly unfolding within the Indian Air Force. This one will multiply the Indian Air Force's punch and add more firepower to one of its most advanced fighter jets, the Sukhoi 30 MKI.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
UK's F-35B fighter jet towed towards the hangar. A team of technical experts arrive in Kerala to assess the situation. Jamaat moves Delhi High Court seeking ban on Udaipur Files. Kanhaiya Lal's family seeks support from Hindu groups. Swami Vradacharya and Dhirendra Shastri participate in Sanatan Mahakumbh in Bihar. Karnataka Chief Minister's aide asked people to choose between guarantees or development. Bharatiya Janata Party says that the Chief Minister's government is bankrupt. Prime Minister Modi arrives in Brazil for the BRICS summit, welcomed by the Brazilian president. Thousands of devotees attend Dalai Lama's birthday celebration in Himachal Pradesh, Dharamshala. Hello and welcome. You're watching Live and Breaking with me, Akanksha Khajuria. Let's start with the Prime Minister's visit to Brazil. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has joined the world leaders in Brazil for the 17th BRICS Summit. The iconic family photo moment takes place as the global heads of, in fact, states stand shoulder to shoulder, that you can see in the picture as well. Prime Minister's presence signals India's strategic stake in the global south and in the future of the BRICS as a power bloc as well. There on your screens, you can see Prime Minister there with the world leaders at the 17th BRICS Summit, and this holds important for India as well. In fact, as far as this summit is concerned, this will take up the issue of global governance reforms, climate change and the challenges, artificial intelligence, among other things. But these are the visuals that came just a while back of Prime Minister standing shoulder to shoulder there with the world leaders. In fact, as far as the BRICS Summit is concerned, it will be very important for the global south. It wants to form a framework to collaborate on expanding cooperation in the area of health, ethical use of artificial intelligence to solve the global problems, reform multilateral banks to meet the financial needs of meeting the challenge of climate change as well. And also on the focus will be inclusive global governance. During this summit, the Prime Minister is likely to hold bilateral meeting with other leaders on the sideline, and after the two-day summit, a bilateral visit to Brasilia will follow, the first by an Indian Prime Minister in nearly 6 decades. There you can see Prime Minister, in fact, earlier today, meeting with the Brazilian President there, hugging it out and shaking hands. And on the other side, you can see that is a family photo at the 17th edition of the BRICS Summit that is currently underway. Prime Minister is going to be holding several bilateral meetings with the world leaders there at the BRICS Summit. He will also hold meetings with the Brazilian President on deepening strategic ties between Brazil and the country. In fact, these are the live visuals that we are getting from BRICS as far as the 17th edition is concerned. Prime Minister there earlier today meeting with the Brazilian President, and now standing shoulder to shoulder there with the other world leaders. So these are the visuals that we're getting live for you as Prime Minister Modi joins world leaders in Brazil for the 17th BRICS Summit that is currently underway. That is Prime Minister on the left side of your screen. And on the right-hand side, the iconic family photo moment that takes place as the global heads of the state stand shoulder to shoulder there in the pictures that you can see there on the screen. In fact, my colleague Krutar joins us live on this from our newsroom. Krutar, tell us about the BRICS Summit, the 17th edition, and what will be the focus?
Indeed, Akansha, and these are fresh visuals that we are tracking from Rio de Janeiro. There, Prime Minister Narendra Modi seemingly delivering an inaugural address or a remark. We'll be shortly getting the full remarks of the Prime Minister as he is assembled in the meeting hall now, as all the BRICS leaders have now finally assembled there, as live visuals come in from Rio de Janeiro into Republic Newsroom. As we see just moments after the BRICS leaders posed together for the family photo. This time, Akansha, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the senior most founding member of the BRICS in attendance, as Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping both are absent. Of the 5 founding members of the BRICS, Brazil, India and South Africa are in attendance, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, having been the most in office, is one of the most continuous presence at the BRICS Summit, and under his stewardship, as India is also set to take over as the president of the BRICS for the upcoming year. This is going to be a very significant summit. Obviously, in the initial remarks of the Prime Minister, we expect a strong condemnation of the Pahalgam terror attack, urging the international community, especially the BRICS partner nations, also to come together and unequivocally condemn Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. That will be one of India's top agendas. Along with that, there are possible talks on artificial intelligence, climate action, and matters of the global south, which have always been of deep significance, and India has emerged as a big voice. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting in Brazil as the 4th nation in the 5-nation tour that he has embarked so far. He has been in Trinidad and Tobago. He's also been in Argentina just hours ago earlier today, where he held talks with the President Javier Milei, and now he is in Rio de Janeiro in an action-packed day 1 of the 17th edition of the BRICS Summit, following which tomorrow as well the BRICS Summit will continue, and the day after is expected to visit the capital city of Brazil in Brasilia, where he'll be accorded for a state banquet, as he's also not just visiting Brazil for the BRICS Summit, but he's also visiting there as an official state guest of Brazil. So there, Prime Minister Narendra Modi from inside the hall of the summit, where all the leaders are assembled, and just moments from now, we'll be getting live visuals and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initial remarks at the 17th BRICS Summit. Back to the
Well, absolutely. All eyes will be on that initial remarks of the Prime Minister. But Krutar, do elaborate on the bilateral meetings that Prime Minister is going to hold. We're learning that he will be holding meetings with the Brazilian President. Give us more details on that.
Indeed, and Brazil will have a very deep bilateral meeting also in Brasilia, in the state capital of Brazil, where there is going to be an official state visit by the Prime Minister. But as it is the case with all multilateral fora, even at BRICS, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to engage with various partners. Interestingly, the newest additions to the BRICS family in the last couple of years, we also have the President of UAE, and we also have the Iranian counterparts also present there. So there will be some very interesting conversations with the partners in Middle East, especially this summit happening just a few few weeks after Israel's Operation Rising Lion, and India has been a voice of reason and calling for diplomacy and peace and stability in the entire region, especially in matters of global south. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to hold talks with those counterparts. Obviously, a sidelines meeting with the South African president is also expected, as President Ramaphosa is also expected to be there. And along with that, as India is also going to take over as the BRICS president next year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also going to discuss various agendas and initiatives that India will endeavor to undertake under its presidency of BRICS. But the most significant aspect of this entire bilateral meetings and individual interactions with these member nations is that this is also going to be the Prime Minister's first individual interaction with many of these leaders since India's Operation Sindoor, and which is why India's strong stance on counter-terrorism, cross-border terrorism and Pakistan-sponsored terrorism is surely going to make one of the top talking points amongst Prime Minister's briefing with his counterparts of various nations. Obviously, we saw just last week how contentious these issues can be in Shanghai Cooperative Organization, where the defense ministers meet ended up with no joint statement, as Defense Minister Rajnath Singh refused to sign a statement that refused to condemn the Pahalgam attack. So at the BRICS summit, obviously with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Dr. Jaishankar in attendance, there will be a strong focus on condemning unequivocally cross-border terrorism at an international forum, and that will obviously be a very key part of all diplomatic discussions in order to get the support of the member nations at the 17th BRICS summit. Back to studio.
Absolutely, Kritath. And also important to mention here that India is preparing to assume the BRICS presidency in 2026, and this BRICS summit is very important. The 17th edition, as India has commended the solution-oriented approach of Brazilian presidency in addressing the critical trade issues as well. So, Kritath, very important as India is preparing to, in fact, hold the presidency of BRICS summit in 2026. Tell us more about this.
India is all set to take over from Brazil. Now, it is a very important understanding of multilateral forum and how India has beautifully diplomatically placed itself. In 2023, India was the host of the G20 summit, and it handed over the baton to President Lula of Brazil. That became the G20 president, and last year also we saw visuals coming in from Brazil when Prime Minister Modi was posing for a similar picture, but that was of the G20. Now this year Brazil is once again incidentally hosting the BRICS grouping, which is very polar opposite, multilaterally considered as a very anti-West sort of a grouping, although the grouping denies any such connotation to it, being a matter of the global south and a voice of the global south. Today Brazil is the president of BRICS, and it's about to hand over the baton to India to become the BRICS president. The tale of those two batons being handed over is the tale of Indian diplomacy, one that believes in multilateralism and one that believes that the entire world is one family and deals with every nation in individual capacity with only national interest in mind. The BRICS presidency coming to India is also going to be a matter of great significance. It will be obviously closely watched whether President Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping make it to India. Remember, the BRICS grouping plays a very vital role in these bilateral and trilateral relationships. It was also in the Kazan summit in BRICS last year that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had the first bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, a big moment of thaw in the bilateral relationship between the two nations since the 2020 Galwan clash. So the presidency of the BRICS coming to India will surely be a huge power move for India in order to further the agenda of the global south with its key partners, including the founding members that are Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, along with the extended partners like Egypt, UAE, Iran and so many more, which have been added in the expansion of this grouping, with many more key partners, even Turkey and the likes of them eyeing for a pose or a position in the BRICS summit. Whether they will succeed in under India's presidency is something that remains to be concerned. However, India will continue to lead the talks on counter-terrorism, on poverty, on matters on digital infrastructure and digital transformation, artificial intelligence, health, and of course, climate change, which has been one of the top agenda points of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Thank you, Kritath, for all the details. We'll keep coming back to you for more on this. But look at the visuals that are coming from the 17th edition of the BRICS summit. Just a while back, we saw that family photo of the Prime Minister shoulder to shoulder with the world leaders there. And what we're learning is that he has arrived in the central hall there. And behind him, we can see the External Affairs Minister as well. And in just some time, what we're learning is that the Prime Minister will give his initial statement, and all eyes will be on that this crucial summit in Brazil. And in fact, what we're learning is that he will be holding bilateral talks with several world leaders, along with meeting with the president of Brazil as well. But look at those pictures, visuals coming in from Brazil. Those world leaders holding hands and standing shoulder to shoulder there in Brazil. Let me go across to former diplomat Deepak Vora. Thank you so much for speaking to Republic TV. We are getting the visuals of Prime Minister there at the BRICS summit. What does it mean for India and also for the Global South? Because we are learning that, in fact, next year, 2026, India will be assuming the presidency of BRICS.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Can you hear me?
You're audible, sir. Please go on.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be with you, ma'am. Thank you for focusing on what I call the Inton Wali Sanstha BRICS. I mean, it's very solid. First thing, there is a racket called the G7. You heard about it, all the rich, developed countries, so-called democratic countries. And then BRICS is essentially, purely, entirely developing countries, even though France at one point of time expressed interest in, under President Macaroni, wanted to join, etc., attend a summit in South Africa. Now, the main thing here is India is a founding member. This should not be forgotten. And at this particular summit, you showed some visuals of President Lula da Silva welcoming our Prime Minister. I've seen the Brazilian president. I've met him. I've shaken hands with him. You know, they look like brothers. If you see the little beard that they have, etc. Oh, hilarious to see the two of them together. What is India expecting from this? Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be the star of the show. No question about it. Lula is the host. Because the Chinese president is not going there. I don't think Vladimir Putin is going to be there. South Africa will be there represented at the highest level, and many of the other countries that are coming in for the first time. So BRICS is becoming an extremely important factor in global relations because it represents, please forgive the phone ringing in the background, because it represents the developing world. And their combined GDP, ma'am, this is fascinating, is much more than that of the G7. So they have the economic clout now, they have the political clout, they have the numbers, and the Global South looks to BRICS as its voice on the global arena. You have the Global South, 125 countries, and then some of them are members of BRICS. Therefore, the feeling is that BRICS is a kind of microcosm of the Global South. So it's very, very important. And then again, unlike what Quad, the four people, had done earlier under the Joe Biden administration in the US, they wanted to include everything. This. If you have 30 different agendas, 30 different priorities, you succeed in none. BRICS is focusing. It has a very focused approach, which India is leading. Climate change, as you mentioned, terrorism be one. Economic equity will be another one. Then there'll be a number of other issues we talked about, but it's not going to be BRICS unlimited. It'll be BRICS limited. You focus on a few selected issues which are of common concern to all the members, then you succeed.
Absolutely, sir. But if you talk about the presence of the world leaders there, in the last family photo of last year, in fact, we saw on the left-hand side of the Prime Minister, there was Russian president, the Chinese president as well, but they are missing this time. And many are saying that this is raising question on the group's cohesion and the global clout as well. Would you agree?
Not at all. The Russian is not here because he's involved in whatever, we all know what he's doing, he's up to in Ukraine. And the Chinese, ma'am, I'm glad you asked that. Where is he? Nobody has seen him for the last 3 weeks. We don't know where he is. I'm told his photographs are being removed from government offices. And that's the Chinese system. Here today, gone tomorrow. So we don't know what's happened to it. The fact is that Russia and China, well, they have a certain amount of military clout. China has the financial clout. But their meaningful contribution to global issues that are a priority for the developing world, those are contributed by India and Brazil. And about
Absolutely.
President Lula da Silva, let me just say he has been to prison. You know that he has been hounded by his political opponents. And so he is there. He's there. The Americans were supporting his people chasing him and his incarceration, etc. But he is back. He's immensely popular, as is Narendra Modi. I believe that the absence of the two other fellows, they'll be represented by their senior people. That is not going to make any difference. The BRICS today is here to stay, and BRICS today is led by India and Brazil.
Absolutely. And India is the founding member of the BRICS summit. As you mentioned, Prime Minister is the prime focus at the 17th edition. But next year, India will be in the spotlight as it will be assuming the presidency. How important will that be, Mr. Vora?
Oh, very important, because with India assuming the presidency, first thing is, as we did with G20, all these people will be coming to India, they'll see for themselves. I mean, I was involved in the G20 thing. We took those delegates around, some senior people who had come. when they see India, they say, no, you guys can't be a developing country anymore. Please redefine yourselves as a developed nation. We say, sorry, we still have a long way to go. So the first thing, the bilaterals are very important, because Prime Minister can't go to he's traveling quite a bit. He's flying India's flag everywhere, but you can't go to all the countries that are represented. So you get a chance to meet their leaders there. You get a chance to meet their decision makers at these, and in the pull aside or they're already pre-arranged. You meet them at these plurilateral or what I call polylateral summits like we have in BRICS. So my own feeling is that the agenda that is set in Brazil will be to a very large extent, a contribution will be made by India. And next year, when India assumes the presidency, it'll be time for stock taking, as well as for, of course, adding new items, depending on what the world situation is like. So we are telling you in Brazil that, Tigers, we want to do this. And when you come to New Delhi the next year, well, please tell us what you have managed to achieve. So that is very important.
Absolutely, sir. This is, in fact, going to be the key highlight. Thank you so much, Mr. Vora, for speaking to Republic TV. As we bring you these visuals on your screen, you can see Prime Minister there at the summit. Family photo with the world leaders there. And as Mr. Vora also mentioned, former diplomat Deepak Vora mentioned that Prime Minister is in spotlight, and next year the whole country will be in spotlight when India assumes the presidency of BRICS, the 18th edition. But those are the visuals that we are getting in. Earlier today, Prime Minister Modi met with the Brazilian president. He's going to be holding bilateral talks with the world leaders, a meeting with the Brazilian president as well. But that photo is very important, of a family photo at the 17th edition of the BRICS summit. World leaders standing there shoulder to shoulder. But if we compare it to the last year's photo, Russian president and Chinese president are missing. What we're learning is that they have their own programs that they have to attend, and that is why they have skipped this. But for the first time since taking part in 2012, Chinese president will not be attending this in person. Instead, he has sent his prime minister. And on the other hand, Russian president will also not be attending this, as he's wanted by the International Criminal Court for his role in 2022 invasion of Ukraine. So those two leaders will be missing as far as the 17th edition is concerned. But as diplomat Deepak Vora mentioned, Prime Minister there you can see in the center right there, standing shoulder to shoulder, and that is quite important. And those are the visuals that Republic TV is in fact bringing you from the 17th edition of the BRICS summit. The focus will be on the global governance reforms, the climate change, artificial intelligence and trade will be in focus. Those are the visuals we're getting from you from the hall, and in just some time Prime Minister will be giving his initial statement during the BRICS summit. And behind Prime Minister, you can see External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who's also there. And in fact, as far as the key issues are concerned, it will revolve around health, ethical use of artificial intelligence to solve the global issues, multilateral banks to meet the financial needs of meeting the challenge of climate change, and also inclusive global governance. And as we told you, Prime Minister will also be holding bilateral meeting with other leaders on the sidelines. And after the two-day summit, a bilateral visit to Brasilia will also follow, the first by an Indian Prime Minister in nearly 6 decades. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has touched down in Brazil on the 4th leg of his 5-nation tour. His visit began with the engagement at the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro, followed by a state visit to Brasilia. And from strategic talks to a vibrant diaspora outreach, the visit marks a significant step in deepening the India's ties with Brazil and the whole global south. Watch this.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi landing in Brazil, the 4th leg of his 5-nation tour. This being Prime Minister Modi's 4th visit to Brazil and the first state visit by any Indian Prime Minister in nearly 60 years. Prime Minister Modi was accorded a ceremonial welcome at Rio's Jaleo International Airport, a diplomatic gesture underscoring bilateral warmth. In a post on social media platform X, Prime Minister Modi said, "Landed in Rio de Janeiro, where I will take part in the BRICS summit and later go to their capital Brasilia for a state visit on the invitation of President Lula. hoping for a productive round of meetings and interactions during the visit. Upon his arrival at the hotel, Prime Minister Modi received a vibrant welcome from the Indian diaspora, greeted by chants of Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Honestly, we are very excited and we found ourselves very privileged and honored to receive our Prime Minister Modi ji. And I would say, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Obviously, PM Modi, he is our role model. Basically, as I told you, that we are from Gujarat, and for us, Modi ji, he is like a role model for us.
People gathered with garlands and cheers, marking a moment of pride. Prime Minister Modi addressed the diaspora members, greeting families and children under fluttering tricolors.
पिछले 10 सालों में जो इंडिया का एक स्टैम्प वर्ल्ड पे है, वो बहुत ही अमेजिंग राइज जो हुआ है, चाहे वो इकोनॉमिकली, पॉलिटिकली, डिफेंस, सब कुछ ही बहुत ही वर्ल्ड स्टेज पे आज की डेट में नजर आता है.
Highlight was a powerful cultural tribute to India's counter-terror initiative Operation Sindoor. Brazilian Indian artists enacted and dramatized the sequences of the Indian security forces confronting terror threats, followed by a patriotic musical finale, a moment that deeply moved PM Modi. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi was also honored with the key to Rio de Janeiro, a ceremonial gesture symbolizing trust and friendship between India and Brazil. The city's mayor presented it amid the applause. Prime Minister Modi is taking part in the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro on July 6th and 7th, hosted under Brazil's presidency. With 10 full members plus 12 partners and 8 invitees, it's the first summit with the expanded BRICS, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
From BRICS Summit, I expect a lot of bilateral trade happening, and knowledge sharing between the BRIC countries. In this specifically, I look at ethanol, where we are in Brazil. Brazil is a leading player of ethanol. I was just mentioning to someone that way back in 2005, we had first imported ethanol from Brazil into India, my company personally. And now today, we are standing at a point where I'm definitely that in the next few years, we'll be exporting ethanol from India.
This summit has been very interesting summit. And for the last 3 days, we have been having huge interactions among all the BRIC countries participants. We also had interactions with industries, business counterparts, policymakers, and we have been having quite a upbeat response with respect to India.
Key themes at the summit include trade, climate finance, and AI regulation and digital health. India is also pushing for IMF and UNSC reforms, echoing long-standing demands shared with Brazil. Following the summit, Prime Minister Modi will visit Brasilia for a formal state visit. Prime Minister Modi will also hold high-level talks with President Lula on trade, defense, technology, agriculture and energy. Prime Minister Modi's Brazil stopover underscores India's emerging leadership in the global south, pushing for multilateral reforms, promoting currency trade, sustainable energy, artificial intelligence governance, and global health equity, cementing India's role as a strategic partner to Brazil and beyond. In the final leg, Prime Minister Modi will travel to Namibia on last leg of his tour. He earlier visited Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Argentina as part of the five-nation visit.
And shifting our focus back to the country, to Madhya Pradesh, where Muharram procession turned into a flashpoint in Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain. A massive controversy has erupted after the procession was taken off the permitted route. Police responded with lathi charge as barricades collapsed and a crowd surged towards the Geeta colony in Ujjain. Video evidence that you can show on the screen now shows cops chasing people with sticks, a scene of chaos in broad daylight. In fact, those are the visuals from the evening today. Police says that organizers defied repeated instructions and now an FIR has been registered in this case. There on your screens you can see the chaos in Ujjain in Madhya Pradesh where the Muharram procession was underway. In fact, what we are learning is that the procession took the other route which was not allowed by the police, and police responded with a lathi charge. 16 people have been booked in this case. Now shifting our focus to the state of Odisha, the coastal town of Puri is immersed in devotion and cultural splendor as the grand Bahuda Yatra unfolds as the ceremonial chariots of Lord Jagannath, Lord Balabhadra and Goddess Subhadra leave the Sri Gundicha temple and return to the Jagannath temple. The festival completes its last act with Bahuda Yatra, the return journey, deeply spiritual and a cultural spectacle with people witnessing the return of Lord Jagannath's chariot, Lord Balabhadra's chariot and Goddess Subhadra's chariot that you can see there in the visuals. This is a very important moment. This is called the Grand Bahuda Yatra, as in fact the chariots of Lord Jagannath and his siblings is now returning to the Jagannath temple from the Gundicha temple that it went during the Rath Yatra that we saw last month.
रथ तले रही चतुर्धामूर्तिंकर दर्शन करिवे दर्शन करबा परे बड़ ठाकुरंकर तालध्वज रथ पार्श्वे दे पुनश्च बड़दाण्ड को प्रस्थान करंतु अनुरे महाप्रभु को दर्शन करंतु श्रृंखलित भावरे प्रत्यक्ष भावरे दर्शन करबा परे तुरंत बड़ ठाकुरंकर तालध्वज रथ पार्श्वे दीर्घ समय धरि